Hey there, Star Wars Rebels fans. Welcome to another episode of the Star Wars Rebels After Show on AfterBuzz TV. Tonight we are talking about Season 3, Episode 6, ? The Last Battle. We've got so much fun stuff to talk about tonight. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Over my words tonight. Guys, we have so much to talk about tonight. Feelings. Mostly feelings, I feel like, right?
Lots of feelings, lots of trauma, things occurred. Yeah, we should do the intros because I just want to get right into this.
Yeah, I hear you 100%. Hello, Star Wars Rebels fans. Welcome to another episode of the AfterBuzz After Show for Star Wars Rebels. And guys, we have so much to talk about tonight. We are covering Season 3, Episode 6, ? Depending on how you're counting, The Last Battle. I'm your host, Megan Salinas. You guys can follow me on Twitter at @themenguin. That's TheMenguin. To my left, Katie Cullen.
Hi, all my buddies. You can find me on Twitter at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. We have the hashtag, which is ABTVRebels. We have the live chat, so if you want to say anything fun, you may well get a shout out. Emma will be joining us eventually. Traffic, as it turns out, is terrible in
Yes.
LA.
The lovely Emma Fyffe will be here shortly. Guys, we apologize for the late start. We know Los Angeles,
The
these
Empire
things
had
do
intercepted our transmission.
Fact. That is exactly what happened. We are Hera and Sabine in this scenario. Things happen sometimes, guys. So
Chad is predicting that Chopper got Emma. Chad has also spent the last 10 minutes predicting that Chopper will kill Thrawn, which is my new favorite fan theory.
I love
and
that
talking
theory.
about various flavors of popcorn.
guys, oh my gosh, like Chopper killing Thrawn. I don't know if that would really
Just knock him off a ledge out at the end of a climactic battle. I'll be back. You'll see, Katong.
I don't even think he would be like that, like cliche villainous about it. I feel like it would just be like, oh, he's so like calm and collected. Even just the little bit we get in this episode, he doesn't seem to be the type that would be like, curse you, as he falls down a cliff.
I think if you push him far enough, he will lose his cool. And so it would be interesting to see what that would take.
Yeah, I think you guys probably talked about this a little bit on the last episode, Hera's Heroes, but like thinking about what his breaking point would be very interesting because he's such a fascinating villain.
Also, following up from last week, 65% of you said that you would definitely let Thrawn plan your wedding. What is wrong with you?
I disagree wholeheartedly. I am among that 65% because I feel like he would make it the event to be at. He would be on time. He would schedule everything properly. I feel like the whole show would go off, like the whole thing would go off without a hitch.
And if I could vote in my own polls, I would be among the other 35% saying, let's maybe not invite this guy to a wedding at all. You never know. I don't want him at my wedding.
Are you sure?
God, no.
I mean, again, the guy seems to be on top of it.
Yeah, but I don't trust him. He's kind of terrifying, and he thought that essentially murdering a planet full of people was a justifiable loss.
But if you hired him as a wedding planner, he's gonna get the job done.
Look, if he thinks murdering one of my bridesmaids is a justifiable loss, that's a problem.
I mean, I do feel like a potential red wedding scenario is in the cards. However,
that's enough for me to say
However, if I'm not a member of the rebellion in said scenario, I feel like it would be a perfect wedding. Anyway, that's
Dear God. That is not what this episode is about at all, but we had to cap that one off.
Not at all what this episode is about. But, I mean, this episode is about the past, and it's about kind of reliving the past in a very interesting way. And I wanted to know, like, and I have to be honest, I didn't watch very much of the Clone Wars. And so as a fan of Rebels, but somebody who needs to get caught up on the Clone Wars, seeing this really makes me want to watch it because I'm like, holy cow, who is this droid who is basically playing war games with our heroes right here?
And I love the trope of old soldiers. I find all of this really interesting, and especially to talk about programming. Well, this droid was programmed for this.
Oh, gosh.
Well, so was I. Clones were born and bred for war. We were programmed to do certain things, and they had chips in the back of their heads that are essentially what ensured that Order 66 would be executed. So Yeah, clones were flesh and blood, but were essentially programmed and pushed around, to my understanding, about as much as droids were, and were considered just as expendable by higher-ups.
It's really heartbreaking looking at Rex and thinking of him and his fellow soldiers as just expendable assets.
Yeah.
That's heart-wrenching.
But if you think about it, in this universe, droids are sentient. Droids are sentient beings that can feel emotions and also pain. I don't know why you'd put pain receptors into a droid, but that's a thing.
Why?
But they're not in any capacity considered to be at the level of sentience. They're still property. They're still bought and sold and taken apart and reassembled.
Yeah.
And so when you take something that's like, oh, okay, it's an item, and you put it on the level of a human being bought and sold and assembled and programmed, it says something about the droids of the Star Wars universe and the way that droids are treated.
You know, and you know, you can dig a lot into the way droids are treated.
It's a horrifying can of worms.
Looking at C-3PO and R2-D2, you hear C-3PO talking, you're like, droids are not well treated at all.
It's a horrifying can of worms. It's kind of a slave trade.
Yeah, even Return of the Jedi, and it's like, why are you torturing those droids?
Yeah.
Literally, why would you program them to feel pain? It makes no sense.
So messed up. And all of these droids that we see, like, you know, they're the battle droids. We don't really think of them as being more than essentially red shirts or same universe but stormtroopers, but they have personality and they're kind of cute.
And
they're just
greetings.
like, oh.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, it's kind of interesting watching the Star Wars animated universe be, in its own way more serious than the prequel films, because I remember the last time I rewatched episode 1 thinking, wow, these droids are so cartoonish and laughable. And here in the actual cartoon, I feel so sorry for them.
Yeah.
Like being, hello, greetings. Like, I'm here to welcome you to this planet.
And just the, oh no. Like,
yeah.
Oh, you
or
know
even,
that your death is imminent.
Even running around and then getting squashed by an AT-AT. It's hilarious and simultaneously really messed up.
Yeah. They've very much established droids kind of as people here. And especially they've been doing a really good job of that with... In the movies, we have R2 and C-3PO, whom we all adore. And then in the series, we have Chopper. And it's like, oh, this is a droid. I love the droid. They're a member of the family. And then you look at all these droids that were built for battle and considered expendable. And it's like, this is some massive fridge horror that spans pretty much this entire canon. Is that these sentient beings that we build like we're playing God are considered less than people. They are property, full stop.
They are...
That's so messed up.
Again, they are assets to be bought and sold and discarded whenever it's convenient. And that's why when we see this super tactical droid, I believe his name is General Kalani. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that, chat. But yeah, and again, I don't have the context for his backstory in the Clone Wars, but here...
We actually have something from chat.
Go right ahead.
Iggy the Koopa in chat says, fun fact, that droid's a returning character from the Clone Wars, and in the episode he was in, he was told to head to the planet where this episode took place. Continuity.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And again, seeing this, super tactical droid being stationed here who has been waiting and just constantly living in the past, it's so heartbreaking. And he's going he's naming off statistics about their chances for success as the droid troopers are falling into disrepair. And it's like, that's a special level of hell, just being literally stuck in an era where the rest of the world has moved on and you are now obsolete.
And he was made for exactly one purpose, and there's no repurposing. There's not, all the other droids were shut down remotely. And I don't remember how they said they avoided that fate in this episode. I know they mentioned it, but I don't remember how. So he should have been shut down forever ago. But he's still stuck there looping. I mean, if he were an Halo AI, he would have gone rampant at this point.
Oh gosh,
just completely gone.
I was gonna say, talking about feels, don't even with Halo right now.
I'm kind of into Halo right now, so it's like
Cortana.
Yeah. Yeah, but
So
it's that sort of thing. It's a mind that is meant to do one thing only and cannot do that thing and cannot move forward and is just stuck processing the same things over and over and over. And you can only think about a topic for so long before you've beaten it into the ground and you need something new. And there was never something new. And I'm amazed that he's as sane as he is.
Yeah, it's the idea of like robots themselves going insane is super interesting to me. I have a soft spot for robots in my heart.
We're on Transformers and Voltron, of course we do. Of course
there's a
we
soft
do.
Spot. But like with this character in particular, the second he was introduced, like it was so unsettling. Just and again, robots who abide by their programming, and his objective is to do his best to win the Clone Wars, even though the Clone Wars have long since ended. He's like, you're a former member of the Republic. You lot, like, we are going to play out this scenario, and if we win, then we win the Clone Wars, great. If you win the Clone Wars, great. And it's like, this battle doesn't matter anymore, guys.
No, it really doesn't. And we have Kiki Lopez and Iggy the Koopa in chat. The droid commander overrode the order because he thought it was a Republic trick. I'd forgotten about that.
Yes, that's
so
right.
So at that point, you're in a little teeny outpost in the middle of flip all nowhere, and you get this order, and it's like, oh no, obviously that's a trick. Like, at that point, you're probably paranoid. You can overthink things. Even a mechanical brain can way overthink things.
Again, it's fascinating, though. It adds a certain depth to him. And you kind of get that, like, I don't want to say cabin fever, but like that lost on a desert island sort of scenario of like this person who is stuck in the past. And, then they meet people from the present, and it's just, they're living in a completely different world. So, yeah. And not only that, but seeing Rex fall back into the Clone Wars, like immediately, like just the change in mannerisms and the change in dialogue.
Calling Kanan Commander, because Jedi were always the generals of clone troops. Always.
Like, shout out to D. Bradley Baker. This
for breaking my heart.
This was phenomenal. And like, to the entire cast, especially both the super droid and to D. Bradley Baker. This was such a heart-wrenching episode.
Oh my God, it was. You and I haven't seen Clone Wars, and this is still just like, oh, okay. This is, oh God.
Yeah, I have feelings that I did, and I can only imagine what it's like having watched through Clone Wars and seeing this and remembering like the different battles and the different losses, and Rex points out like a lot of those people who were lost in the Clone Wars, those were my friends. And like, so to be somebody who's a huge fan of the Clone Wars, I can only imagine what this episode was like.
Well, I feel like you kind of knew that going into it. It's like, oh, it's going to be about Clone Wars. Oh, it's Rex. I'm going to be in a lot of pain by the end of this, aren't I?
Yep. Oh, my heart.
Yep.
Oh, my heart.
Let me pregame this episode like crazy. Let me get my fluffy stuffed animal and a drink and some snacks and make myself feel better, and then watch it. And oh, I was in dire need of that fluffy stuffed animal. Hugging it forever because the cat will not let you pick her up.
But I love the comments in the chat about Chopper eventually taking down Thrawn. Because, again, we have Chopper as, I think Chopper's at his best when he is kind of going AWOL.
I loved that we had the cutaway to Hera and Sabine on a completely different mission and saying, speaking of cutaways and completely different missions, Emma's here!
Woo! Yay!
A new challenger arrives. Hello, friend.
Sorry, I just came from TV fights. So,
did you win?
I did win. Yeah. I don't know if our friends at Hasbro would be proud or horrified that one of the things I won on was pitching an adult version of Transformers Rescue Bots that's a crime procedural. But yeah.
Hashtag season 5.
Yeah. Oh my God. Chase as an actual noir detective.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Oh my God. I cannot wait to watch this episode of TV Fights. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, but I
Holy
won.
cow.
It was a third time's the charm, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Again,
girl.
We're a little lean on time for this episode, but
fine, yeah, that's
Emma,
Yeah.
feelings on tonight's episode, because
Listen,
we've just spent the
okay.
last 15 minutes talking about our feelings.
So
And
basically,
chat
okay,
thought that Chopper kidnapped you.
the chopper kidnapped me. Well, that is also true. But no, okay. So basically, for me, this episode, what I felt like was. It first of all, I love a good war game episode, and that was
For
like
sure.
plot wise at the heart of it. Like that's what this was, but also like it was so it spoke to me so much about the strength of Ezra as a character, like his ability to kind of be more of that neutral sort of party, even though like yes, Ezra is a good guy, but I think to me it was like a really shining moment for him of like, oh, maybe he won't go dark, because like he can see the bigger picture in a way that neither the droids nor the clones were able to do so in the Clone Wars, where it was like they were basically fighting each other to destroy each other as a distraction, and they just all ended up being, you know, decommissioned basically, and then the Republic fell and the Empire took over. I mean, that's all it was like they're like, we're gonna have this whole elaborate war, but really it's just one big distraction for the Galactic Empire to move in and take over.
Exactly. And it's so heartbreaking to think about the entire Clone Wars as a distraction, or like all of these characters that we know and love being pawns in the grander scheme of just like, once the Republic and the Separatists have been weakened, the Empire is just going to move in. And again, we've talked about this in the past. The prequels, they're not as great.
They're not great.
But there's
No.
some interesting stuff in there.
There is, and the Clone Wars in of themselves were very interesting. And I mean, obviously we have a whole other animated series about it. And you know, the thing I've said about it many times on this show is that like Clone Wars is very much, it's akin to kind of like the old Doctor Who serials, where it's like a few episodes make up one story, and then the next few episodes have nothing to do with those last few episodes, except that they take place in the same universe, in the same time frame within, you know, the Clone Wars actually happening. It's kind of like the Silmarillion. It's like, it's a lot of history, but there are some good stories in there. And certainly, you know, Captain Rex was this character. Like there's an episode of Clone Wars where Captain Rex like sees like the degeneration start to happen in the clones, where it's like, oh, I don't think this guy is thinking for himself. And so yeah, so I mean, he was a character that you were already incredibly emotionally attached to, and so to, you know, now see him confronting the fact that like he never got to finish the purpose that he was basically bred for. You know what I like? The clones
Yeah.
were bred to fight this war, and the war never like ended. It did end, but there was no resolution.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where the idea that the thing that you were built and or bred for was ultimately pointless. Like it was like the whole it's heartbreaking to say, but this whole war served no purpose. It's just awful to think about.
Shiny distraction.
Yeah.
It was basically, we're going to focus a whole lot of everything here and put the Jedi in a position to be killed so we can wipe them out.
It was
'cause we
Palpatine.
definitely programmed that back door into there. But really, the political maneuvering is the important
It was
part.
literally Palpatine stacking the deck in his favor and just waiting, or I guess if you want to use a different metaphor, putting up all the dominoes and just waiting for the opportune moment to tip everything over.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Definitely.
Speaking of stacking the deck in your favor, DraftKings is sponsoring this episode, y'all.
Yay!
So,
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but fantasy football has been the conversation at my
Oh,
work.
yeah, everyone at work,
talks about it. It's basically D&D for sports people. And I just keep hearing, oh, I played this character and then he broke his ankle. Or I picked this guy and he's been on the bench for like 5 games and I can't do anything
I don't know
with
what
him.
that means.
Talking about heartbreaking developments.
I know, right? So, DraftKings lets you avoid all of that because it is 1 week fantasy football, no season-long commitments, and no busts and bench warmers. Never again will injuries have you combing the waiver wire at 2 a.m. Every week is a brand new season. Pick your contest, draft your team, and follow the action live. Renew old rivalries with friends and play them every week, or try 50-50 contest where the top half of entries win cash. I feel like that's better odds than Vegas.
Like,
Yeah.
much better odds.
Oh, I like every time I hear about DraftKings, I'm like, that makes me want to play fantasy football
know,
because
right?
it seems like comprehensive to me. You know what I mean? It was like if someone were to like throw me into fantasy football, I'd be like, I don't know what any of this.
Can I make a saving throw? I play actual D&D, but
Yeah.
no, fantasy football sounds like something I could actually
Totally.
understand and
Yeah.
do, and that's
Yeah.
saying something.
Yeah.
So even if your current fantasy team is circling the drain, you can still win huge cash prizes at DraftKings, and this is how. Start your new season at DraftKings.com. Use the code BUZZ, B-U-Z-Z, to play free with your first deposit. That's BUZZ, B-U-Z-Z, to play free for your share of over $1 million in total prizes. This weekend, only at DraftKings.com. Eligibility restrictions may apply. See site for details. Do the thing. Do your best to win the stuff. It'll be great. In
Yes.
much the same way that we had a lot of doing the things and attempting to win the stuff in this episode.
Yeah, so let's talk about the war games themselves, actually, for a
Yeah.
little bit. I gotta say, like, again, as you said, Emma, a good war games episode is really interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because it's Steve Bloom's performance, but the idea that they took Zeb out of the game, it broke my heart.
Yeah,
I agree.
Like, you're right. You were part of the game, so we're gonna leave you here, and you get to be the hostage. Okay.
I agree, except from the standpoint that it was then that much more gratifying in the end when they did all band together to take down the walkers and use the proton bombs to basically, you know, blow everything up.
Yeah.
And you know, to sort of have Zeb leading the charge there while the droids just kind of fired every which way and the Jedi like deflected the bullets.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yes. So I agree, but also he
served
got
a
stuff to
narrative-
do at the end.
It served a narrative purpose, and
Yeah.
again, that's what creates the stakes here.
Yep.
You know, if you throw everybody in the team, you know, again, there's like even if they win, you know, there's a chance that they could lose because their friends at stake.
Yeah.
So
Well, and we got speaking of everyone on the team, we got the cutaways to Hera and Sabine, and I love that whole "if there's an issue, Kanan will call me." Really? Will he? No, but if there's an issue, Chopper will run off and he'll call me. And we see that happening, and we see the Empire intercepted. So it was really interesting to see.
Yeah.
No, I completely know how my team works. And also to see the Empire get in on that and just completely circumvent that process. I like watching that. I thought that was real clever.
yeah, it's so fascinating. Again, because we have this emotional investment in the people that we're following, but at the same time, like this whole thing with the introduction of Thrawn, has become one giant chess game.
Yeah.
And like on the one hand, it's fascinating to watch the governor. She's the governess. What is her title exactly?
Governor, Governor Price.
She's the governor of Lothal. Sit here and go, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is an encrypted message that is repeating over and over. It's clearly a distress signal. Let's send some people there. It is, and granted, that ends up backfiring because our troops rally together.
Right.
But ultimately, like, what's won out of this situation? Yeah, our characters get closure, but they don't get any of the assets that they're looking for.
They got a shuttle, though.
That's true.
That's
That is
true.
true.
Poke
It just
in the
needs
eye sharp
just
stick.
needs a new paint job.
And some weapons.
Well, yeah, there is that. Yeah, there
Yeah.
is definitely the big problem of there's no.
Yeah, again, we got our ship back. You know, that Ezra lost in that other mission that was a total crapshoot. But like, yeah, it's so fascinating to watch these different pieces move across the board. But at the same time, it's like, how is this going to work out for all of the people that we're invested in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know how much from the hashtag you guys have been pulling up, but Hassan Yosef brings up a good question of, do you think the Separatist droids might join the rebellion full time? And Oscar Herrera asked basically the exact same question. Do you
How great
I think they're going to
would
start a
that
farming
be?
commune.
farming commune? Okay, great.
Sadly, I think the super tactical droid is like, guys, your percentage of victory is not super great, so this is where we got to part ways.
Exactly. I think it's one of those things where eventually maybe we'll see them come back, but their inclination is not going to be to fight because, as you say, Megan, this very advanced, intelligent, tactical droid is going, calculating based on science, hashtag Star Wars science, their likelihood of victory, and it is incredibly low.
And This is where I kind of run into a little snarl for this episode, because there was one part of it where I was just like, this just does not ring true. And sadly, it was part of the resolution.
Really?
With the whole, well, you would have won, but your droids are old, and that means we won, but we didn't really have the victory. And congratulations, Ezra, you solved the war. Like, I get that he has the outside perspective as being literally the only person in this situation who was not alive for this.
Sure.
Like, I understand that, but just the way it was written, it was like, you solved the war, congratulations. And I'm like, wow, that's really moralizing and like 6-year-old. Can we not? And the bit about you would have won if your droids had been in better condition. As a strategist, you need to take into account the condition of your equipment and your troops. You cannot plan for full strength when you know that everything is dilapidated.
That is true.
I would have won if still means that you lost.
Yeah.
He might, I mean, in his defense, he might have not been programmed with the depreciation of assets as a part of his programming.
True. Yeah.
But you'd think the AI would make up for it.
I was going to say,
he has a flexible AI.
Except for the fact that he is aware of the fact that like the droids are like not accurate. Like he obviously has some sort of awareness of the flaws within his system. So
My troops aren't accurate made me laugh like a crazy person.
Can we talk about that voice, though?
Yes.
Oh my
he was
gosh,
great.
I could never tell whether I should have been sympathetic or terrified of this particular
little of
droid.
both.
Again, a little of column A, a little of column B.
Yep.
I just have to say this because this is
right
the
ahead.
best summary of Thrawn I've seen in a while. Mike's Vlogs in chat says, Thrawn is just like the enemy of my enemy is a useful tool.
Oh.
Yeah! Oh, yeah!
Yeah.
Oh, snap. And I'm really sorry to say that we're very lean on time tonight.
Did we address the results of the poll about letting Thrawn
We
plan your
did
wedding?
at the
Okay,
beginning.
yes.
Fantastic.
65% say yes.
Yep.
Yes to the dress.
65% of y'all are gonna die.
Nope. 65% of y'all are gonna have a great wedding.
Before you die.
Again, apologies for the leanness on time
Yeah,
on this
sorry.
week's episode. But ladies, do we have any final thoughts on this, again, very, very emotionally driven episode?
More like this.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm starting to think like there's still hope for Ezra. Like, weirdly enough, that's one of the main kind of things
Yeah.
that I got out of this.
It was funny to see him go like, "Here's my thought exercise, guys," and then like the Empire comes literally knocking at the door. It was pretty funny.
Yep.
See, I just was making dying whale noises pretty much the entire time.
I hear you again, and it's one of those things where we've talked about this before, but since Katie and I haven't watched it, watching this episode, I'm like, when can I start? Shut up and take my money.
When
give it to me.
Netflix puts them in order. That was my
that's-
problem when I started watching.
Honestly, that's probably the biggest issue.
It's fine. Just look on the internet, guys. You'll see what it
I know
is.
that there's a list.
Yeah.
Dylan sent me a list, so
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he
yeah.
did.
If you can count on anyone to do that, it's going to be Dylan. Well, folks, again, thank you so much to everybody for tuning in tonight. Emma, where can people find you?
You can find me in the studio. Finally, here I am. But you can find me on Sunday nights here on the Ash vs. Evil Dead after show, as well as Bob's Burgers. Ash vs. Evil Dead is at 9. Bob's Burgers is at 8. And you can find me on Twitter at my name. It's Emma Fyffe, EMMAFYFFE, and on my wonderful Sailor Moon podcast called Love and Justice. Megan was just a guest on it.
Oh, shit.
It was great.
I'm Katie Cullen. You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube at Kiaxet. That is KIAXET. I am also on Snapchat at Kia Prime. We are going to be at LA Comic Con /Comikaze this Saturday. We have a Star Wars Rebels AfterBuzz panel at 3 p.m. in room 406 AB.
AB, yeah,
I
that's
believe,
right. Yeah.
something like that. Come see us. I will probably be carrying a basket of exotic butters. The other announcement, now that I think we can actually say this, Robots in Disguise is back Thursday, 7 p.m. We're doing every other Thursday. We're switching off with Ruby, which will also be back at 7 p.m. on Thursday, November 3rd. I am also on Arrow, which is Wednesday, and Crunch Time and Z Nation, which are Mondays. I do many things.
Yes, we have a very special guest with us on the panel.
Yeah.
So for those of you
Yeah.
who are in town, please come to that. It's going to be such a ball. I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. I'm also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz with these lovely ladies mostly. And I articles for the movie Chick That's Chick with 2Ks. Be sure to check those out. Again, check out that episode of Love and Justice because we get to talk, we just gush about the Death Note musical.
It gets real. It's really fun.
It's so much fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to everybody in the hashtag live chat. Don't forget to comment on iTunes, rate, and subscribe. We love you guys.
Yay!
Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz. See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.